Hello and welcome back to Straight Reviews. Today I am at Mercedes Benz of McKinney reviewing this brand new 2024 Mercedes-Maybach S680. And yes, you heard correctly, the S680, because this has a 6-liter V12 underneath the hood, which packs a lot of power, but this is more about luxury than it is getting speeds quickly. But without further ado, let's break this vehicle down and complete a review. Now up front on the Maybach, you can see a lot of chrome. You have these vertically slotted grills with the radar cruise module and a beautiful Maybach stamp within the center. Now this does have the advanced driver's package as standard, so you get all those driver amenities, and not like you would need those driver amenities because you're going to have a driver for a car like this. I like that the 3-pointed star is standing vertically yet again instead of a flattened badge to really signify that you are driving a Mercedes Maybach vehicle. Although I wish that they went back to their old W221 style where it was the Maybach logo instead of the 3-pointed star, but you know, we can't have everything. One thing I did notice about the Maybach that's different from the regular S-Class is that we have a chrome hood insert, which to me seems a little bit unnecessary, but it really does differ from the regular S-Class. I have one parked right next to it, and you can tell that they're very different cars. The headlight is pretty much the same, although the one main difference is that we have this lower chrome portion, which seems to have some lights in it, but it doesn't have any lights, but it's just an additional chrome decoration piece like this lower portion of the grille. Now this goes back to the W222 style of front bumper as opposed to the brand new one. I personally like this, and I think it fits the Maybach a little bit more. It's more luxurious, dressed up, and let's say flashy in a sense, because it is completely chrome, and this is 100% functional because you do need all the air to feed into the twin turbocharged V12 engine. We have integrated parking sensors as you would need on a car this long. This thing is 18 feet long, and you would need all the sensors to help support not scratching this beautiful white paint. I personally think that the front end looks pretty good, although I did like the previous generation's S-Class and Maybach design, but I think for a brand new refresh, this is a pretty solid effort. Now, like I said before, this differs from the Maybach S580, which is what most people would buy. This is the 680, which means it has a 6-liter bi-turbo V12 underneath the hood. This engine produces 621 horsepower and 664 pound-feet of torque. It's mated to the same 9G-tronic 9-speed multi-clutch automatic transmission, and it has the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system, so 0 to 60 happens in 4.5 seconds. Now, if you're wondering how much this differs from the Maybach S580, it's about 0.2 seconds quicker. Now, just 2 cylinders, 4 cylinders. Now, would you think that 4 cylinders would make up for a lot more than just 0.2 seconds off the 0 to 60 time? Yes, but this car isn't about 0 to 60 time. It's about a more linear torque curve, which is what you get from a V12 as opposed to a V8, because a V8 simply does make more torque than it does horsepower in most cases, depending on how it's tuned. But based on the tuning of this engine and transmission, this is the best pairing for a Maybach, in my opinion, especially considering that we have the twin turbochargers, which do dampen the sound a lot more. It's a more balanced engine overall, so if you did turn this engine on, put a penny on the engine cover, it wouldn't move, because that's just how well balanced Maybach is making their motors. Overall, I mean, there's not much jewelry going on in this engine bay. We have the Maybach crest in the front center, and then in the complete center of the engine cover, we have the Mercedes 3-pointed star. All we have is V12 written in gloss black, and besides that, there isn't really much going on. You would expect that, you know, coming from a Maybach, we'd have some sort of extravagance in the engine cover, but it's just a black plastic cover like we see in a base model C300. There isn't really much else going on. We have the inlets to feed both sides of the intake manifold. Since it's a bi-turbo setup, they're going to be in the center, so we can't really see the turbos either. But otherwise, I mean, really, it's a pretty well-built engine. I remember Mercedes making V12 since way back when, and they always do a really good job. They produced engines for Pagani, so I'd say that says enough. Now, the front fenders are the only place, unless, you know, you're a Mercedes fan, where you could tell that this thing has a V12 as opposed to the V8 in the regular Maybach. Now, the 680 badge does signify that it is a V12. I don't know exactly where the 80 came from because this is a 6-liter V12 and not a 6.8 or a 680 horsepower vehicle, but you know, alas, Mercedes badging is Mercedes badging. The C300 doesn't make 300 horsepower, unfortunately, so we can't talk too much about Mercedes badging in this video. But front fender, beautiful platinum V12 badge. We have a chrome running skirt. It's not entirely a side skirt because the side skirt's below it, but there's chrome molding that goes all the way across, and I think it looks rather beautiful. Now, and also in terms of beautiful, we have these impeccably just perfect looking 21-inch wheels. These are 265 millimeters in width. It's a square setup, so it's 265 all around, but these multi-spokes are stunning. I have never seen wheels, especially 21-inch wheels, that look this good. Now, if it was my Maybach, personally, I'd go with the forged monoblocks because I think they just fit the car better. I mean, I could stamp these on a regular S580 and be happy, but we have chrome center caps that say Maybach on them, which is one of very few Maybach badging. I mean, in the front of the car, you only really have three main spots for the Maybach badge, on both wheels and on the front. And besides that, you don't really get much. And I mean, obviously we have a V12 badge, but you go back to find like a BMW 760i and it'll say V12 on the C-pillar. So there is that. In terms of styling, it's not too different from the S-Class, the regular S-Class, because the fenders are the same. It doesn't need to be wider. It's longer, for sure, a notable amount longer. I'll get to that when I get to the rear door, but in terms of width, same width, just a lot longer, because it needs to accommodate that rear seat wheelbase, and this does have the executive chair option, which is around $6,000. Well worth it. You don't need 5 seats in the back of a Maybach. You only need 4 total. You get 2 and 2. You want to sit in the back of this car, so obviously you need that option. But in terms of the front end, I do really like these wheels. Personally, I'd go with the monoblock style, but these multi-spoke 21s look really, really good, and they do fit the car to the extent that they need to fit the car, so I'm not complaining. Now, the rear end of the Maybach is most easily the best part of the entire car. Now, like every Mercedes-Benz vehicle, this thing does have keyless entry, so I can tap the lock button, the handles go in, and I can tap my arm or hand or whatever part of my body on the door handle, and the handles pop back out along with the mirrors. This thing does have a fully charged battery now, so I can actually do all these things, but it says Mercedes-Benz on the chrome on the door handle, and it's limited like the regular S-Class, but where this differs from the regular S-Class is in wheelbase. Now, this is 7.1 inches longer compared to the poor person S-Class, and you can see that right in this door right here. It's much longer than that of the regular S-Class, and that is to give the rear seat passengers the utmost experience of Maybachness, which, I mean, is great. One thing I love about the Maybach is that in terms of the puddle lights, I open the door and I get mini Maybach crests on the floor. You can see that more with the front doors. And if I look right down there, I see all the mini Maybach interlocked crests, which is kind of funny. We get the regular Maybach logo from the puddle light on the mirror. Rear wheels are the same as the front. It's a square setup, like I said earlier, so same width, same size. Best part of the entire car is the Maybach crest on the C-pillar because it is illuminated. Who doesn't want an illuminated Maybach crest when they walk up to their $200,000 vehicle? In my opinion, best feature of the entire car. And here we are at the rear end of the Maybach S680, the beautiful car which looks too much like a regular S-Class from the rear end, in my opinion. Now, we only get, you know, the fifth place technically, because you had the C-pillars, but 5th place for the Maybach branding. And the 3-pointed star as always, and the S680 badge. One thing I like about the Maybach is that it gets a special font compared to the poor person S-Class, and you know, Maybach is always a flex to anyone that knows what it is, and you know, it's always a nice feature to have. Attention to detail when really looking at branding. This is also in chrome or platinum, whatever you'd like to call it. We also have a chrome piece which runs from the end of the taillights, which looks pretty good. We have standard S-Class taillights. I wish that we had some special going on, maybe some you know, additional lighting features or maybe some additional strip to really take it apart from the regular S-Class, but I guess not. Lower portion, we have more parking sensors, which are necessary because this thing's 18 feet long. We have the chrome piece on the top of the diffuser, we have a chrome piece within the diffuser, and we have the exhaust tips, which have a slit in the center, but these are semi-functional, meaning that the exhaust tip ends behind it, but this still lets the exhaust fumes out from here. It's not completely closed off, which is still a win in my book. One thing I found interesting about this trunk lid is that we have a lip spoiler, which is not something I'd expected in S-Class, but alas, we do get it in the S-Class. Opening the trunk up, 100% powered, thank goodness, because the battery had died before. We have a hanger for your suit, and we have the Robe and Birkeland Silver for the Maybach Champagne fleets. Now, considering we have about, I don't know, $100,000 worth of amenities, and that's not 100,000, a few $1,000s worth of amenities in here. I won't be doing the trunk test, but I can tell you that I could easily fit about 4 bodies in here. Use that as you will. I can do a partial trunk test. I mean, I wouldn't want to destroy anything, but you know, fits relatively decent. And if you are paying attention to what's happening in the rear, you can see that we have a large box. And no, it's not a, it's not for the morgue. It's for your champagne and all of the other festivities you'd like. I am not old enough to drink, therefore I just put apple juice in there because that's the gentleman approach to how to go about life. We have the little subwoofer in here. Again, this is for the Burmester 4D high-end surround sound. We've surpassed 3D for some reason and went straight to 4D, so we have that. One thing I found interesting is that this wasn't part of the S-Class, the one that I reviewed, at least to my knowledge, and I don't really know what this is for. I assume it's to illuminate, but oh wait, this is for the U.S. regulations. So when the trunk is open, you have some sort of lighting to show people behind you that the trunk is open and that you're standing there, because you know sometimes the lights just won't cut it. And then there's an additional part which lights up the trunk space. We have a power tailgate, which is always nice. Comes down and is soft close. Perfect rear end. I really do love these taillights. They're sequential with the turn signals, so again, that's always a win in my book. Now we're in the portion of the video where you actually care about it. So the S680, I can definitely tell that there has been an additional 7.1 inches added to the wheelbase, because I remember sitting in the regular S580 and I did not have this much legroom. I had this much legroom when the front seat was all the way forward. I have ample legroom. Like, I'm wiggling my feet in the air, enjoying myself in this $250,000 car, and honestly, there's nothing I can complain about. Every material is finished so beautifully, and the comfort of the seat is impeccable. I have perfect lumbar support, perfect leg support. I also have thigh support and calf support, which folds out when I do this. Now that button is the button to move the passenger seat in the front all the way forward and fold out this little footrest portion for me to truly enjoy myself in the rear end of this vehicle. Now, this is only exclusive to this side of the Maybach, so if you are going to buy one of these and have a driver for you, then you want to be on the passenger side of the car regardless. Also, if you're trying to hunt someone down to drive in an S-Class, hit the right side, because that's probably where they're sitting, but you didn't hear that from me. Now the calf supports come out, and there's little footrests coming out as well. And it's honestly, I'm not tall enough for it. Actually, I'd have to scoot down a little bit to really experience this. But now I'm laying down. I'm enjoying the comfort of all this luxury. Even my door, like my grab handles on the top, are finished in Napa leather with perfect stitching. We have the light, which is always nice, and we have the tweeters for the Burmester 40 high-end surround sound system. We also have the sub, I would say, I'd say it's a base module for in between the front and rear sunroofs. Oh yeah, we have 2 sunroofs in this car because we wouldn't want your little driver to share the same sunroof as you, because that's you're too rich for that. In this center portion, we'd have the tablet, which is in the trunk, because, you know, no one's taken delivery of this car yet. So the tablet goes here. We can control every single thing that we can in the front and the rear here. So there's no reason to complain when you're in the back of this Maybach. We also do have screens, but I don't like screens in cars, as I got a lot of hate for in the Escalade V video. But My point stands. I think it looks a little bit dated. If it were my spec of a car, I wouldn't even have the rear TV options. I just skip out on them because I personally don't like them. The thing is, you can't do that in this car. They have to have the screens. So if you don't like screens, you're kind of cooked. But that's fine because I'm staring straight at the Maybach crest with my little pillow comforting my neck. And in terms of comfort, who wouldn't like a little bit of champagne? But in my case, apple juice. I open this flowing wood design compartment, and I open the fridge, and I have space for 2 wine bottles, sparkling apple juice, and a few cans on the top. But cans are for poor people because who drinks alcohol out of cans? Although I will have bottles of Dr. Pepper in there. The whole fridge will be full of Dr. Pepper. That's the only thing I'm drinking. I open this top compartment. It's space for these champagne flutes. They're made of sterling silver because glass is for the poor. And not to mention the fact that this compartment that houses said sterling silver champagne flutes also has the Maybach crest in it. Coming into this center console, doesn't open. This is just a charging portion, and this thing like pops out for all your festivities. We have the compartment, which closes somehow with a button because pushing things is for the poor. We have vents on the center which flow from the center console. I really love how this front end design flows into the rear. It's something that this generation of S-Class is doing significantly better than the previous generation, in the Maybach at least, because we have this executive option for $6,000. Well worth it in my opinion. If you're already buying the car, $6,000 is chump change to you, so just get it. We also have tray tables because eating in your Maybach is just a flex on the poor people. And I'm officially in first class. I need some caviar and a steak of some sort. I don't know what kind of steaks rich people eat, but we do have access to do so in our Maybach S680. Now keep in mind that yes, the regular S580 also has the same tray tables, so you're not exclusive in your 680 in terms of, you know, interior amenities. But we have, what is that, 6 USB-C charging ports, as well as a cigarette lighting port. You could also fit a wireless phone charger right here in the center, which is always nice. And then besides that, really, it's a Maybach. More speakers. We have controls for all the windows here. I can control every window in the car from my window setting. I also have settings for the calf support, which is something that you wouldn't expect anyone to say, but alas, it is an option. And yeah, that pretty much sums up the rear seats of this vehicle. I'm not going to go through the infotainment system because, quite frankly, there isn't much different. If you really do want to see the infotainment on this generation of S-Class, I have a S580 review. I'll throw that up there if you really are interested. But then again, someone buying this car, truly who is buying this car, doesn't care about the infotainment system. They care about how comfortable they are back here. And I will say, this is comfier than my couch at home and my bed combined. So, I'm not complaining whatsoever. The amenities in here, the smell in here, the feel in here, everything is just perfect. And if I'm being 100% honest, I would take this over a Bentley Flying Spur because the bang for buck that I'm getting is far better than anything else. Mercedes Benz of McKinney hasn't marked this vehicle up. It is going for MSRP, and that is unheard of for a Maybach in the last, 5 years? And they're doing it. V12 Maybach, $250,000. That's probably the same price you'd buy an SL63 for in this modern economy. It's less than a G-Wagon, so forget your G-Wagon. This thing does weigh a lot more than 6,000 pounds, so United States tax code, what is that, 74 or 174? I can't remember, whatever that GWVR, gross weight tax benefit write-off, whatever thing it is. This thing probably still applies for. I mean, it's not an SUV, obviously, but I mean, who cares? I also have a rear sunshade, but Oh, sorry, no. That's to open the door. Because opening your door by hands for poor people. Can I close it? I can close it. To be rich, please subscribe so I can actually like get here because I need one of these. But let's move up to the front. I have some things I'd like to talk about. All right, gonna go for more of a POV approach to this. We have the flowing lines wood trim on the vehicle. We have all of the same mirror options like we did in the backseat, except this controls the front side view mirrors right here. We also have a little like dynamic touch bar, which I don't like. Interestingly enough, the light controls are on the door and not the front panel over there, which is interesting. Burmester tweeters, they rotate outwards whenever you wish to listen to your music, your classical or whatever else you would wish to listen to, but the demographic for this usually just listens to rap music. We have the door opening button right there, another Burmester tweeter on the side, seat controls as well, but the most important part is we have metal pedals which have the Maybach crest imprinted on them, which is the greatest feature possibly of all time. We have the parking brake release over there, two vents right over here. Now let me climb in. Now we have the module to see the driver, make sure they're paying attention for the attention assist plus feature. We have the module over there for the heads-up display. We have more flowing line wood trim, which I absolutely love. I like how it's horizontal, not vertical, like you can option in some cars. For climate control vents in the center. It says Maybach in the center, which is always nice. Again, regular S-Class stuff. I reviewed the regular S-Class, so if you're looking for an in-depth view of the front, I have that there. Wireless charging port, more place to put stuff, two extra cup holders, an illuminated seat belt, which is nice, and just a regular cubby with two USB-C charging ports. We have diamond stitching on the Napa leather with Maybach head pillows. I absolutely love the comfort in this vehicle, and personally I think that it is probably one of the best vehicles to be driven in if you're looking at a vehicle to be driven in on a budget. Now let's head out for a little drive. I apologize in advance for the camera angle. I got a little bit nervous trying to drive a $250,000 car. You may notice that the interior is different. Well, that's because the one parked in the showroom had a dead battery, and there was no way to get an 18-foot vehicle out of the showroom with ease and moving like 4 different cars. So I improvised and just drove another one. Now, this drives very similar to a regular S-Class, although you have a lot more power, and you don't really feel it until you really push into the throttle. Now, I'm barely on the gas, and I'm already over the speed limit. Well, not anymore. I'm within the confines of the law. But the thing I like about this is that when you come to a standstill and start going again, the car actually leaves in second gear to lower the torque curve and make it a lot smoother to get going, which is something I really do like. Steering is especially light, and you barely feel like you're driving this car, which is not that significant because you're not supposed to be driving this car. You're supposed to be in the back, and I wish I was in the back because it's a lot more comfortable back there. Now, in terms of driving dynamics, there isn't really much to talk about because the air suspension just soaks everything up and you feel nothing, but it's not too squishy in the corners, which is something I really do like. Now, I'm just going to be quiet and let you enjoy the rest of the video because that's all you can really do. You don't really hear the V12 too much either, which is nice, although I'm a car guy and I want to hear screaming, high-pitched V12 everywhere I go. Now, turning radius was impeccable. We get rear-wheel steering, so that solves the problem right there with your 18-foot land yacht. And that is the complete review of the 2024 Maybach S680. And my closing impressions are that this is the greatest luxury car you can purchase for value for money. Now, competition is the Bentley Flying Spur, like I briefly mentioned earlier. The thing goes for at least $300,000, and we throw options on it to match this thing. You're going to cross $350,000 to $400,000, which is double the value of this car, which is not double the car in the sense that you don't get much more for that much more money besides a Bentley badge. And quite honestly, if you want to seem like a conceited cuck, then go ahead and buy that. But you already seem conceited driving one of these
which is exactly what you want because you want everyone to know that you have money. And obviously, you will have money because you're driving one of these. Now, I would say that the Rolls Royce Ghost is a good competitor for one of these, but Rolls Royce says that they don't have competition. So, unless you're buying a private jet or a luxury yacht, then it would be fine to say that you could compare it to a Rolls Royce, but this is a Maybach, so it really just runs with Bentley. Now, otherwise, I'd say it's a great car. Quality is really, really there. It takes me back to the old days of Mercedes when they were making tanks. Newer Mercedes quality has been a little bit more disappointing. Thankfully, this thing's still made in Germany and not Alabama, but so is the regular S Class. Now, this is a lot different from a regular S Class, and I'd say that it does pretty well in being a Maybach. You get a better car for about $100,000 more, and that's the extent of which I can comment on. Mercedes Benz of McKinney, big thank you to them for bringing this vehicle to me. Well, I went to them, but allowing me to actually grab the keys, even though the battery died about twice. That's because no one's actually driven this car because no one's bought it yet. So go ahead, run down there, and buy it. That is all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please do consider subscribing, and remember to keep on driving.